بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا ومرحبا بكم في اليوم الثالث والأخير من أيام المؤتمر والمعرض الدولي للطحالب، الذي يعقد بالتزامن مع المعرض السعودي الدولي للثروة السمكية تحت رعاية كريمة من صاحب السمو الملكي الأمير سعود بن نايف بن عبد العزيز أمير المنطقة الشرقية، وبإشراف من وزارة البيئة والمياه والزراعة ممثلة في البرنامج الوطني لتطوير قطاع الثروة الحيوانية والسمكية. الطحالب ثروة طبيعية لمستقبل أخضر. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third and final day of the International Algae Conference and Exhibition. We'll start our program for today with Dr. Jean-Paul Cadoret. He's the Vice President of the European Algae Biomass Association and CSO ALGAMA. He'll be speaking about the challenges and opportunities for algae industry. Please welcome him to the stage.
Thank you. So, hello everybody. It's quite a challenge because you heard a lot already about the algae actually, so I'm not sure I will teach you a lot of things, but we can come to some points that are not that easy. The first thing is probably to start with, if it goes, to start with actually, I could stay on that slide longer. To start with the colors and the shape. Colors and shapes are not only nice; they means also biology. A lot of different biologies, pigments, polysaccharides, for example. So they are nice, but there are also a lot of features that are very interesting to work with. This is true also for the seaweeds. So I'm not sure if this is come from me. Okay, I have to be quicker. And this is true for seaweeds. They're very beautiful, and this means also a lot of different biologies, a lot of features. And if we talk about biologies, we talk about original ways. Okay, it goes from alone. So what's very important, and please go back to that. At the EABA, we have been working quite a long time on what is an algae, and this is very important because this comes very often, very often, that people decide themselves what is an algae. And at the EABA, we gathered experts for that. We gathered probably 10 on our 10 or 15 experts during 4 years to have a position paper that we're able to give. In a way, EABA exists for that kind of reasons. We exist, the European Association exists for that kind of reasons because everybody says, what are algae? Who is working on algae? What are the stakeholders? So for this, you have a reference paper to say what an algae is, and you just read the paper. You can download it. This is true also for the definition at the European level. It disappeared, but I'm not sure. I have the hands. Yeah. So anyway, I will follow the slides, but not me. The challenges. That's very important. I could stay also a very long time on this slide. That's quite important because you see the challenges. They are at a lot of levels. They are at the biological level. They are at the process level. We're going to see that after. They are at the water. Water is very important. I'm not challenging that here in Saudi Arabia. Water is very important. The story of the nutrients, the CO2, the nitrogens, phosphate is very important too. And then when you have the algae, what you do with it. So all of these are skills. And it was very interesting yesterday to hear Luis Costa saying that this is very important in our job. This is true for all the jobs. The skills. We need people that are professionals. You go then to transversal and the LCA. So I'm sorry because I don't have the hand I'm just waiting the next slide. Applications. If you go downstreams, you know all the applications now. That doesn't mean that it is easy to do. Even if you know all of them, it's not easy to do because all of them calls also for a skill. Skills in health, skill in bioremediation, in industry, skills in energy. But applications are downstreams, and they are very different for the location, geography. Here, for example, you might be more interested in food, which is not the case for all the locations. I could stay a little longer to cosmetics, to nutraceutical. It's difficult to predict what will be the future. We had the question yesterday from Vitor, and you saw that in general, everybody trying to talk about the future is relatively wrong. This was true for internet. It's probably true for a lot of things coming now, artificial intelligence, for example. But some of them appeared. Some there people spoke about the facts or Visio or even teleguided vacuum cleaners. But prediction is difficult because it's very affective between what will happen and what you will like that will happen. Are you credible when you're talking about? Some things are totally unbelievable, but they happened. We will see that with the next slide. Look, people talking about playing under the water or flying to the station, cars without wheels. I would have loved to go, but I'm sorry, I'm totally dependent on the slide that stay, so it will be longer than expected. And here I had to talk about Jules Verne, not only because Jules Verne was born in my hometown in Nantes, but he said a lot and he described a lot of things that happened after, for example, the maritime fisheries and maritime aquaculture. And here now, this is what we have. What the people think we will have with the algae. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm just saying that you can find on the internet, and you can find people that consider that we will put algae in buildings on other houses. So this is true for houses. This is true for cultivation. You probably all of you know this cultivation system, these propositions on the sea, under the sea, floating. You have some programs that are very known, like the Nénuphar. Or am I wrong? And some people are predicting, this is my fault if he doesn't go. Yes, no, that's okay that I can talk, but I cannot change the slides. The slides are doing what they want. So that's my problem. You have a lot of people announcing a lot of things. Just above, you can make your own biodiesel in your garage if you want. You have biofuel system, that was a very controversial. You have Eugène, we talked about Eugène yesterday. Now he's going on Mars or on the moon, which it's already difficult to make, sorry.
You can go all the way there. You can go all the way there, yes.
Yes, that's not my problem.
No. You can walk here, it's fine.
Yes.
No problem, yes.
But my problem is the slides.
Yeah, no problem, yes. You can walk here, it's fine.
Yes, I can walk, but I want the slides. And Eugène is talking about moon and about Mars, which is quite interesting. This is true, but it's already difficult to make algae on Earth. So moon is really something that I would like to see. I really would like to see. And some people think that anyway, plant-based analog will not displace meat. So there are a lot of people who are sure of what will happen. In a way, it's interesting. It's interesting because we will see if it really happens or not. And now the slide stays, so I can stay on that slide if you want. Can I have this in the next slide? Thank you. Now, there are people, Stephen Hermans, Phycoeconomy. there are people that are very, very in the job. And for him, there are 5 to 10 points that are important for the future. And I will go very quick. Biochar. That might be very interesting. 2, I don't know. Now, could I have my slide back? It will be nice. Thank you. Nutrients credit, carbon dioxide. We spoke a lot about CO2 these 2 days. Very, very interesting topics also for the game changing. Increasing efficiency. Actually, the talks we had before or the day before are also about efficiency. How can we be efficient? Bioplastics. We have the representatives here with the algae. Data. The data management will be very important also for the algae, like every other professions, but it will be very important. Next slide, please. If somebody does it. Yeah, no, thank you. Investability. How we can attract investment. How we can really be very credible. And this is one point. EABA exists also for the credibility, to gather the people that are really in the profession. And when you are an investor, we had the discussion yesterday, when you are an investor, what's very difficult is to be sure that what the people are explaining you is real in algae. Are they really the people that know the algae, or they just had an idea like this, and now they have to convince you. It gives us some works, actually, some job as consultants to try to help the investors in the world to. Is there a credibility in here, efficiency, productivity, for example? Education. I think, Gabriel, you talked about education. We're a vice president also of EABA. You talked about education. Will be very, very important to have skilled people, each time skill. And how can we go against the hype, what we call the seaweed cowboys now, because they are all around the world. These people promising so much with the algae. For example, we're almost at 80% of the recycling of the CO2 on Earth with these people. We are waiting the 120% recycling of CO2 with the algae. 50% is the real numbers, which is already very, very nice. And this is not, the oxygen is not created by the algae, please. The oxygen is just recycled. Which is already nice. Also recycled by the algae. Can we have the next slide, please? So, and some thoughts, not only on the algae. Again, I come back to the profession. It's long to learn a job. It's long. Luis, you talked about 20 years, 25 years. You cannot jump like this and says, well, I'm going to make algae. So that means track records. When you meet people, they're ready to show that they did it, and they're not only talking, because we all can talk about. Playing collective, that is difficult. It's difficult because you have a lot of associations. I put ABO for John. Where are you, John? I put ABO, EABA, but sometimes you sometimes pop in some new associations about algae. You don't know where they come. They bring a lot of buzz. And the problem also with our relationship with the institutions. So we have to have the track records of these associations. Education, this is the same. You see so many young, nice people, they are 25 and they are already senior scientists and they teach on the web, which is a big problem because after that you have the old professors, they come back and says, we cannot let these people talk about algae without knowledge. So we have to be very careful also about that. Track your recourse again. And science industry. There is no war between science and industry. There is just bringing together, I know because I was from both sides, bringing together the envy, the comprehension to understand each other, how we can bring the science to the industry, how the industry can explain sometimes the utilitarianism of what is done, and the working together is very, very important on that. And again, this we have to have track records. Is this evident for you? I don't know. Anyway, I had to talk about. Next slide, please. Now, I will give you some thoughts about what I think will be important. I might be wrong, but what I think it will be important. And again, this is not science against industry. This is knowledge that will be very, very important or useful for the industry. Omics. we're talking at lunchtime on all the annotation, how we will be able to sequence, to know the biology, and to go very, very quick in the biology. I give you some examples of publications that are all very recent. You know probably some of them. Anyway, the point is just to show you everything: omics, transcriptomics, the phenotypes of the algae, how we can understand deeply on work. There is also, for example, the epigenetics that is relatively new for us. It will be a tremendous tool, tremendous to understand and to see the selection, how we can select the algae. Next slide, please. This was the omics selection. Very funny enough, somebody said that yesterday. We're comparing agriculture 10,000 years ago, probably you, Louis, 10,000 years ago with 50 years, 100 years. We all work with wild algae, all. We have some selected algae, but we all work with wild algae. As we could come back in 5,000 years before. You are able, on this, of course, I show works that I did as a researcher because it's easier. You can double, triple now the amount of lipids, polysaccharides, pigments with selections. It comes. There are a lot of companies now and laboratories working on that, but there is everything to be done on selection. Imagine a kind of algae Monsanto. We need it. Next slide, please. So strain selection will be important. Again, this is a work that I did, so that it's easier for me to show you. GMO, a genetic transformation of algae for pharma, for example. And I show you here in green the expression of foreign genes in a Phaeodactylum with 5 patents that we had. The green expression inside of the algae until the secretion. You don't care if it's not your job. The point is to understand that we are able to express now foreign genes in almost all the algae we want. And we're creating a new company on that. Next slide, please. What will be important? It's also very trendy for the human, the microbiome, to understand the relationship between the bacteria and the algae will be very important. Not only to understand it, but to act also, to be able to bring the good algae. This is a thesis I had in my lab. You see here the normal algae. Here when you have a bacteria, one bacteria and one algae. You give the good bacteria and here you have the productivity of the same algae. And you give a bad bacteria, and you have the productivity of the same algae. We will be able to act with the microbiome on production and growth curves and a lot of other things. Bringing the good vitamins to remineralize the nitrogens, for example, and to help the nutrients to be much more effective, only with the bacteria. And there is a lot of work to be done. Next slide, please. This was for microbiome. And then, thank you. Microbiome is also signal between the cells. That's also very important to understand. If you have cultures, the cells, they are talking together. Not only there are bacteria, but the algae are talking together. So they are so much talking together that even inside, in the sea, in the marine environment, some algae are able to inhibit other algae, which is also important to understand, not only because it's interesting, but also because you can act also in the culture of your algae. You have very interesting publications on that. Again, publication doesn't mean that we're talking only about science. We're talking about useful science for the production and to be able to grow the algae. Next slide, please. And artificial intelligence. So I'm not intelligent enough to talk about this for today. We know and we understand that the artificial intelligence will be a key player in the next decades, and anyway in the time coming. You have, for example, I find that very, very interesting. They're able to change and to adapt to the medium of the medium for the growth of the algae with artificial intelligence. So this is just at the beginning, and we have to tackle that we will. But I think this will be competitiveness to be able to tackle the artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. So very quick to ALGAMA, because I belong to ALGAMA and we are part of this story. Anyway, they pay me, so I have to talk about them. So you have here the two founder of ALGAMA, Alvin and Gaetan. Next slide, please. It was important to understand that the new trend in plant-based can be also a playground, for the algae. Why? Because you can come to a very high density in protein with some algae. You have a very good amino acid balance if you looked for. It's very digestible, and on that I have already work done in my lab on digestibility, which is also an important part of the story. Best quality of unsaturated fatty acid. We heard yesterday how fatty acids are important, and they're the best unsaturated polyfatty acid comes from algae. This is sustainable if you grow them. Low GHG emission, biodiversity, no competition, low water consumption. So the algae can complete the agriculture in a fantastic way, but I think you heard that already yesterday. Next slide, please. And ALGAMA, this is already 22.5 million raised, 42 people actually, 70% of these people are in the R&D. We have European grants, national grants, and so on, and we have 4 active spin-offs. Next slide, please. 4 active spin-offs to sell our product. And our flagship is an egg replacer with algae, and with this egg replacer we're able to make a vegan mayonnaise. And we are advertising on 60% less fat, plant-based, non-GMO, no preservative, no cholesterol, soy-free, gluten-free, and other flavors. Anyway, and this is only one of the 4 products that we have for the moment. Next slide, please. All of this was done with our egg replacer, because it's not that easy to replace an egg. If you just take an algae like this, okay, you can make a cake that will look like a cake, but it will not be a cake. And to replace an egg is very, very long. It was a 4 years work, actually, to replace the egg with the ingredients containing algae. Next slide, please. All of these are products done by ALGAMA using our algae. This is true for the salmon substitute, this is true for the milk, this is true for the cake and pounds. Next slide, please. Few words about European Algae Biomass Association, because I'm not sure you retained everything, so now you will hear again about the European Algae Biomass Association. Very active, because we're 5 or 6 here from the steering board of this association. You know that Carlos is the president. I was the former president. Vitor is here. Gabriel is here. Next slide, please. I think you come back. Yeah, well, but I think at the booth you have we're 210 members, which is a kind of achievement, and we have very big players like Total, Roulier, and others, and you have a lot of small, and almost all the European universities are members, which gives us a kind of legitimacy to talk about algae. And if we need experts, and if you need experts, we know where to find them, because they are members of the EABA. Next slide, please. And we have our Algae Europe 2023, which is our conference, yearly conference. The next one will be in Prague, and the next edition in Roma. We had 450 attendees, which was also an achievement. We count about probably 500 in Prague next year. Next slide, please. And I think I'm done, and I thank you for the attention.